This is the Sweno Creative Podcast. I'll be your host, professional photographer and video content creator, Brian Sweno. In this podcast, we will discuss all parts of business, marketing, mindset, creativity, and self-improvement. Sometimes with the help of a special guest to provide some incredible outside perspective. So tell the people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, like Brian said, my name is Matt Sherman. Born and raised in Lebanon. Worked at Verizon for the last 13 years. A lot of you guys probably know me from that. Currently in barber school. I'm going to be working at Buzz Cuts with Jason here pretty soon, which I'm super excited about. Excited, one, to get out of sales, but also Jason's an awesome guy, and I'm stoked to have that opportunity. I own a taxidermy business called Precision Skullworks. I have a YouTube channel called Man vs. Deer. Father to 3 kiddos, 2 of which are very, very active in sports. 1 will be, but she's just too young. But
The Cabbage Patch.
Yeah.
When I took the photos of her, I was like, she looks exactly like one of those Cabbage Patch dolls.
She's got like the really curly hair. Yeah.
And like just like the Gerber face, you know, she's like got that perfect baby sort of look.
When she's not scowling.
Yeah. So we've established that you dabble in a lot of different things. We met a long time ago through music. You had a band, I had a band. Take us from like those early days and just like kind of a summary of how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. How many years have we been friends? It's been a long time.
Since I was freshman in high school. So that would have been 2006.
So, showing our age
or
there a little
5
bit.
or 6.
Yeah, so you were in a band, I was in a band, and we kind of met over music, I guess, you know, and we're both pretty into that and became pretty good friends over that, played a lot of shows together. And then Brian actually got like really into music production, and we did a lot of work together in that area too, which has had a pretty decent effect on like the Man vs. Deer and the YouTube stuff. You know, that's kind of where, if we want to go way back, a lot of that stuff got started, you know, on the creative side of things. But did the music thing until I had kids. At the point I had kids, I decided that is not a good way to support a family. As much as I enjoyed it and had a passion for it, it just really wasn't feasible to raise a family, and still isn't. You know, those guys, a lot of people don't know, but even the ones who look like they're making a lot of money, they don't make a lot of money. We got high enough up that we got to see that side of it, and it just wasn't really feasible.
Sort of like eye-opening.
Yeah.
If you reach not the top, but like you get to a certain level of success with it, and then you're like...
just like barely out of the bottom.
Yeah, you're looking...
looking around, and you're like, hey, this isn't what I thought it was. And that's, as much as, you know, that kind of broke my heart a little bit, because I really did want to pursue that when I was younger. It, you know, life goes on, and you have to do what you got to do. And I found other ways to kind of get that creativity out with like the YouTube and the taxidermy business and stuff like that. So the taxidermy business, that started by me just being a cheapskate. You know, I started killing some nicer animals, and I wanted to have mounts done. And not that I wouldn't pay for it, but a lot of the places I reached out to, they just had no availability. They take a certain amount of animals, and then they're done for the year. And so just out of necessity, I had to learn how to do my own, and kind of found some enjoyment in the process. You know, working with your hands and then starting with something and seeing a finished product. It's very, very satisfying. That kind of rolled into doing some work for friends and family. And then where it got to where it is now, I've always wanted to kind of venture out of Missouri as far as hunting and hunting adventures and stuff, but that stuff's expensive. You start buying out-of-state tags, you talk about gas, some hotels here and there, all the gear you need to film and go have an adventure like that, and it adds up pretty significantly. And I felt like I was stealing from my family the amount of money some of that was taking. And one day I just woke up and I was like, I should pursue this taxidermy and just kind of pigeonhole that money for those adventures. And it worked out really, really well, and has grown into something that not only takes care of that, but still kicks even more money back to the family, which is awesome.
That's awesome. When did the YouTube channel come first, or was the taxidermy business sort of like the catalyst for the YouTube channel?
They both kind of started right around the same time, because at the point I decided I wanted to start being a little bit more creative and filming some of my hunts. I also needed money for like a good camera, because that makes all the difference, and a microphone and a second camera, and needed a lot of gear there, which You were like super helpful when I first got started with that, is like pointing me in the right direction for video editing and cameras and mics and all that stuff. Like, it was very helpful to have a friend like you that was already like, because you were already doing photography by then, I believe, and doing it quite well. I don't think you had quite jumped off the deep end and like went full time with it yet, but you were definitely doing work at a professional level at that point, and being busier than I think you were able to handle. So that really helped push a lot of that stuff along too. And I felt like I had some cheat codes that other people that started at the same time as I did not have. So that helped a lot. That's
really cool to hear too. Like I know during that time, like giving some advice and stuff, but then seeing you take that advice, even like you came over whenever you first started and were like, okay, so how do I cut? Like, how do I cut the video? So I showed you like, you know, how to make a cut, or like how to overlay your voice, you know, underneath this and put in the music. And then seeing you from those little baby steps to like now, like making full videos, like you make all your own stuff, film all your own stuff, and you've taken and ran with every single pointer that I've ever given you. It's really cool to see. I know like you've told me before, like it's cool seeing my success in what I'm doing, but it's super cool the opposite direction too. Like seeing any sort of impact that I made, you know, on that, not with even with the music stuff back in the day, but like going forward and the video editing and all that stuff. It's just cool to see you kind of following in that same footstep. It's cool to see.
I would like to be one of those people that's like, yeah, I taught myself by watching YouTube tutorials and on some minor stuff like here and there I have, but I have no shame in saying that I siphoned a large amount of that knowledge off of you and shamelessly, you know, it's taken off like farther than I thought it would. And I'm actually making some money off of it now, not near as much as the taxidermy, but enough that like it pays for the filming gear I need to do it. It's self-sustaining right now, which is awesome. But I get asked that a lot. Why do I do that? Number one, a very selfish reason, I like to go back and watch that stuff. Like hunting to me is very exciting. It gets the adrenaline up and even the good times, the bad times. Like it's good to be able to go back and relive that in video form instead of having to rely on the memory, because my memory is absolute crap. Short-term, long-term, it doesn't matter, you know. So having that there where I can go back and click on it and just rewatch it is awesome. And that's the number one reason for doing that. Probably the second reason, and it's a pretty strong reason too, is I thought if I started making that kind of content and posting that kind of content, that I might link up with other like-minded people, because there isn't a whole lot of people around here that take that stuff as seriously as I do. I mean, there's a ton of people around here that love to hunt and love to fish, but they don't like to create content, and they maybe don't go outside of Missouri and you know, want to maybe go hunt elk or do this or do that, you know. And I'm meeting a ton of other people that like to do that stuff, and I've actually been invited to go here and hunt, go there and hunt, collaborate with this YouTube channel here and this YouTube channel there, and it's put me in front of an audience of other people that share the same passion that I do for that stuff.
That's cool.
And so it's, well, you know, with the photography and video stuff, it's, you can explain this stuff to someone who doesn't know anything about it, and you can tell it's kind of fallen on deaf ears. But if you talk to someone else who's in the same industry, one, you can learn stuff off them, and two, it's just like they understand what you've been through because they've been through it, and you can have like an actual conversation about it. So
that's really cool to hear too. Have you actually met up with another person that you've met strictly just through YouTube?
No, not like I haven't went somewhere and hunted with someone. Now I've got probably 10 different irons in the fire. And for those of, some people may not know how some of that hunting stuff works, but if you want to go hunt elk, a lot of times you can't just do that. It's a waiting process. You have to put in for the tag, and you got to wait to get drawn and stuff like that. So I've got,
I wouldn't have known any of that.
Yeah. I've got about 10 different irons in the fire. And especially when this barber school stuff clears up, I'll be a lot more free to go do some of that stuff, because right now things are a little bit tight, and obviously the schedule's pretty full with that stuff. But I haven't actually taken advantage of any of that stuff yet, but in the future, like tons of it is already in the works. Yeah.
So you talked about the taxidermy was like almost like a need for you. You fulfilled that need for yourself. What made you decide that you could start doing that for other people too? Like, was it just the, hey, I might be able to make some money off this to fuel that passion? Or was it like you wanted to provide that service? Like you actually really like to do that?
It was one first and then the other. So the first part of that was I needed it to go do hunting and to put extra money into my family and things like that. So it started out 100% like as a side business and an extra little hustle to make a few extra bucks. But it quickly turned into something that I really enjoy, especially kids. Like when the youth seasons roll around and someone brings me the first deer they've ever shot or the first turkey they've ever shot, and I get to hand that back to them and see how they light up. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. I would, I almost feel guilty taking money for it sometimes. Yeah. So it's one first and then the other. Both of those exist at this current time.
Yeah. A lot of the most creative people that I've had the opportunity to talk to or meet or like become friends with over time started with music. Do you think there's any correlation between that for you?
I would have to say yes, because that opened my eyes to like a world of creativity. And then those musicians, the few and the few who actually make that, they're like free. They do whatever they want, whenever they want. They have full creativity over what they do and their schedule. And I think once you get a little piece of that, you're always going to want more. I don't think you'll ever be truly content with the regular 9 to 5 kind of thing after something like that. So yeah, I would say, and even I think people who tend to be more creative, even if they didn't start with music, I think they could jump into it and take off with it like that. I think they're predisposed to liking stuff like that for sure.
So you think it's a almost pre-programmed thing, and some people like they got that little light bulb, it just needs to be flipped on almost? Yeah,
I think that's kind of built into your personality. And there's tons of different personalities, and they all have their benefits, you know, like this. I mean, the creative personality is detrimental severely at times financially. Yeah. And then just with time too. I mean, being creative eats up a lot of time that you could be spending with your family, or you could be, you know, volunteering at church or whatever. So, I mean, it has its detriments too, but it also has its positives. I think it opens you up to more career choices and things of that nature, you know, and
yeah.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. Is there any other plans for you guys with music at all? Even as just a total side thing?
We've actually been playing, so me, Dusty, and Joe, that's who I've always played music with, is my two brothers, which, you know, Brian's actually filled in on some gigs with us before, like where we had a member not be able to make it. You filled in one gig that sent us to California. Like we were playing in a big contest, and if we won it, we got to go showcase in front of a record label. And I remember you stepped in and learned the entire set list. Yeah. And we actually won that night and got to go do that. So that's a pretty cool memory that you and I have together. Yeah. But the core of our musical group has always been me, Dusty, and Joe. And right now we're actually in the process of learning a bunch of 90s country covers. And we're gonna play cover shows here and there, you know, mostly just for fun. Maybe we'll make a few bucks off it, maybe not, you know, but it'll at least feed that drive and want we have to play music. And then I get to hang out with my brothers, you know, yeah. So definitely
like
something.
A good excuse, almost.
Yeah, and it's tough to get that stuff in right now because we all have kids, we all have jobs, and so we don't have a dedicated night where we can practice. We just kind of do what we can when we can. Mm-hmm. But it's something that's kind of moving slowly but surely.
Nice. That was just a selfish question for me because I've been wondering that.
And every time I say we're learning 90s country, that people are shocked, you know, because back in the day we played heavy metal. Yeah. But heavy metal was actually new to us at that time. We were born and raised on Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, all those Alabama, those older, like we were born and raised in the country on country music. And so metal was actually the new thing when we decided to play that. So we've went back to our roots a little bit with that stuff, and it's kind of cool to.
The couple videos that you guys had posted, like I think there was almost a total surprise, like whenever people first clicked on it, knowing you guys from before and what music you did, and then they clicked on it, and not only the style of music, but like how actually good it is. Like Joe picking up singing and playing at the same time, and like I was shocked. And I've been around you guys for 15 years, like 15 plus years.
We went through it was hard for us to keep, when we were trying to pursue the heavier music, it was hard for us to keep other members that weren't us. Mm-hmm. And so when everything fell apart with that, we decided that we were just going to do it ourselves. And so Dusty actually learned like the harsher vocals, and he was going to do that. And Joe had started learning how to sing at that point because he was going to cover that side. Nothing ever came of that. But then when we started picking up country, Joe still had the skill set that he had picked up from learning how to sing, and he did quite well with it. and does do quite well with it. He's kind of the surprise of that project. Like, and I'm like, yeah, Joe's singing. People are like, what? Joe?
Yeah.
And
and then they tune in just to see.
Yeah.
The interest is peaked. And
yeah, he knocks it out of the park. He put in a lot of work to get there too. And some of the stuff he plays while he's singing is pretty impressive. I can never do that. That's why I play drums.
What actually made you pick up the drums? I've always wondered that too. Like, what made you the drummer?
I've always had a fascination with him ever since I was little. And I feel like people are naturally like good at some things, and that's something I just felt like I was naturally good at. Like, there was never a time where I was like, I don't know how to play them. Mm-hmm. It was like, I need to practice and build up my endurance to maybe be able to play this a little faster, or maybe I just need to like pick a few beats out of this pattern, but I just feel like I always kind of knew how to play them. And then, like, to further that, I tried actually learning how to play guitar, which did not come natural to me, and I still don't know. I mean, I can play a few chords, but that was like so hard. It just pushed me back in that direction even harder, and I just always kind of stayed there.
Do you think that's almost like the ones and zeros sort of mindset? Like, if I think about you, like, in my opinion, you are very, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, you're very robotic in terms of thinking. Like, it's a 0 or 1. Drums, it's either kick, snare, like, you only have so many options. With guitar, there's like so many things to choose from, and it's more that like feel sort of thing. See, I've always thought in my head, maybe that's why you didn't pick up guitar.
See, when I think about drums, I don't think about math or numbers. It's more of a feeling to me. And I think you might be one of those people that is predisposed or like naturally good at guitar because you think of it as a feeling, and I think of drums as a feeling. Like, when I was younger, like, people would come up to me after a show and be like, dude, those were some sick double over doubles, which is 2 on the kick and 2 on the kick and 2 on the tom. And I would be like, what in the world are you talking about? Like, I'm doing all these things that I didn't even know what they were. Yeah. I could just listen, like, I could hear someone play it and be like, oh, I know how they're doing that, you know? And it's more of a feeling to me. Just, it sounds like almost how guitar is kind of a feeling to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always just, like, I don't know how to read music, none of that. Just like,
same.
Pick it up, hear it, feel it, be able to play it.
Yeah.
Like, that's, and like Joe's the youngest brother, then Dusty's in the middle. Joe is like one of those people who picked up the guitar, and I'd been playing for like 8 years at that point by the time he started. And within like a couple months, he was better than I was, and like just flying all over the fretboard. And he's just one of those crazy like phenomenon sort of people. And he has like that hyper fixation and able to just like dive deep on it.
I don't know. He's kind of airbrained too, but like he's not someone I would call robotic either. Like, he is not thinking about numbers and stuff. He's just feeling it. And that's how, like, I picture you view guitar, and maybe I view drums and stuff like that.
Yeah. One thing also back in the musician days really always impressed me about you was your ability to network with people. And you'd be at a show, and by the end of the show, not only did you play a really cool set, and so everyone was like wanting like that sort of oh, these guys are actually good, I want to talk to them sort of a thing. But you were best friends with nearly everybody that was there, whether they were in the crowd or the promoter or anything else. What do you think led to some success of networking yourself and getting your guys' foot in more doors than maybe otherwise you wouldn't have had?
People call that networking. I just like talking to people, you know? Like, it's always been easy for me to get out and meet new people. And I mean, that's how me and you met. And I can think of so many awesome people that are in my life that I met just by talking to them, maybe at work or through hunting or whatever, you know. But to me, it's always just been talking to people and being nice, you know, and through that you just meet other nice people. But it has opened up a lot of doors, like, you know, the job I'm fixing to go do and work with Jason, that happened through just, you know, being a nice guy and talking to people. Yeah. And so many other instances like that. It almost feels like I've been extremely lucky in that way. Yeah, I don't really know how else to put that. A lot of it wasn't on purpose, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That sort of networking thing, that does not come naturally to most of the people. People watching this probably might need that help, what would be like some advice to just go up and talk to that person?
Well, I mean, there was some strategy to that at certain points. Like back when we were playing music, if you were in a band in St. Louis and I wanted to play in St. Louis, I might go out of my way to talk to you. I was probably going to talk to you anyways, but I may try to more tactically talk to you if there was something I thought maybe could be mutually beneficial. And I guess that's the advice I would have is you can't network and make friends if it's only one-sided. Like you have to be as much of a benefit to that person as what you're trying to get out of the situation. In fact, like a lot of the times you just cut yourself completely out of that scenario and go try to do something nice for somebody.
Yeah.
And that will usually come back and pay dividends. Because if you approach something with like, hey, I'll do this for you, if you do this for me, a lot of times that can go bad for one of the people involved. But if you just like out of the kindness of your heart or wanting to be a good guy, or maybe just wanting to take the first step, and establish a relationship, if you'll just go do something nice for somebody, a lot of times that'll come back and pay huge dividends. And that's a lesson that one of my really good friends taught me. So
nice guys don't finish last.
Not always. Not always. I've been burned a ton, but I mean, that's dealing with people. Some people are going to be nice and some people are going to be buttholes. You just never can tell.
Yeah. Well, I figure
I'm still trying to figure you out.
It's pretty easy. It seems like it's real easy to sniff out when someone's being fake or just wanting to use you, like being taken advantage of. So like in a networking situation, if you go into it, like what can this person give me? Like what value can I provide to them that might then lead into something else? Like in my personal experience, I started, the very first thing that I was asked to do with a camera was film Drew Bishop's YouTube videos. He just happened to see me having a camera and he was doing the bodybuilding prep. And like every single thing that I've ever done since then I could trace it back like tree roots back to that.
It's crazy how that stuff works, isn't it? You've been doing that a long time.
7 years.
Because I remember
now.
in some of those first videos you put out and like how good they were with the Titan nutrition.
Yeah.
Like and all that stuff.
Yeah. And he got sponsorships through some of the videos that we made back then.
You guys were putting out some awesome stuff.
Little tiny point and shoot G7X from Canon. It was like I look back on those now and I'm like wanting to throw up in the trash can, but like for just picking up a camera and like just throwing myself into it. That's another thing that I think kind of holds people back a lot and that you have always been really good at. I've been like those creative sorts of people is just putting yourself into the situation.
Jump in.
Like I was scared out of my mind as a kid. Like I was super shy, wouldn't talk to my own aunts and uncles, like at family events. Like I was totally to myself as a kid. A lot of people don't know that about me. And I had to like work on my own mind to get to the point where I would put myself in those situations. And for me, music was the thing. That's why I was so attached to that for a long time. That was my thing that like gave me my identity and let me be what I wanted to be rather than like just a super shy little kid, because I didn't want to do that. I always knew I wanted to do something more, didn't know what it was going to be, but that was like the first step in the right direction. And then picked up a camera trying to film YouTube videos of me playing guitar. Then that stemmed into a whole career, and like now I love every day, like waking up able to do what I actually like to do, spend more time with my kids, like all of that stems from me picking up guitar at 8 years old.
You know what's crazy too is I think people can get so far down one path, and they give a good example of this on a podcast I was listening to. It was actually a podcast on how to grow a YouTube channel, but this lady was talking about how she never would have been where she was if she hadn't have taken a detour from her original plans. I believe she was like trying to be a singer, right? Yeah. And people kept hitting her up for vocal lessons and kept hitting. And she's like, I don't want to be a vocal coach. I want to be a singer. But after like the 100th time that happened, she started taking clients and it turned into this big booming business and an online academy and a YouTube channel. And that never would have happened if she had stayed on the course that she wanted to do. And I think kind of like me and you started out wanting to play music. Well, your path kind of took you down photography, and you've been wildly successful at that. Yeah. It's crazy to see the quality of content that you're putting out, and then you're supporting your entire family on that, which is awesome. And I know that was a big leap for you to take too.
Yeah.
So talking about jumping in, like, you know better than anybody. And like me with music, you never can fully let that go.
Yeah.
Like you still play, I guarantee you still record every once in a while. We're playing covers, I don't feel like you could fully ever let that go once it gets in your system. But I went from putting all of my time and effort and energy into that to now doing other things, and it's drastically improved the quality of my life since I let that go, because it was kind of like dying, and you had to cut it off, which sucked. But the other areas of my life have been, flourishing since then. So
how did you come to that realization?
Kids. So like we did I don't know, 2 or 3 tiny tours, like where we actually were gone for a week straight or 2 weeks straight. And one, the money just wasn't there. Like we never went into the negative. We always made a little bit of money, but you talk about the little bit of money that we made and then having to split it between 5 people, it got super small, super fast. And then just doing the math, I was like, this will never work. And even if you quantified that by like 5 times or 10 times, it still was looking very, very skimpy. Because we weren't a big band by any means, not even close. Barely out of the bottom, like I said earlier. But if you took what we were doing and amplified it like we were something, it still wasn't looking great. And then I had 2 kids at home at the time that, when you become a dad, they deserve the best that you have to offer. And that wasn't the best that I had to offer. So it kind of sucked at the time, but it was, I had peace with it because it was the right thing.
Yeah. And even the transition you're making right now, like you've been in this job for 13 years, you said, right? And coming to the realization of like, either you don't want to, or it's not sustainable for you to do that forever.
A little bit of both.
And then making another leap.
A lot of one, a little bit of the other.
Yeah. So because that I saw your post about that, and that was totally out of left field for me to see that. What prompted the decision to go from salesperson to barber?
I want to preface all of this by saying that I really feel like God had his hand in this, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. But me and my best friend were talking one day, and he was like, what would you ever do if like that became not an option? Like say you had to do another job, what would you go do? What else do you know? And it kind of put me into a little bit of a panic, because I'm like, I really, I've kind of put all of my chips in on this table, on this hand. If it doesn't play out for me, it doesn't look good. And then he's like, can you imagine having to start over at like 40 or 45 and having to start your career all over again? And I'm like, no, I can't. I was like, that it was terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And then the more I sat there and thought about it with the industry that I'm in, I felt like it was like a young man's industry. And I didn't feel like it was maybe sustainable long term. And I really didn't want it to be either. It wasn't something I super enjoyed doing. I've known a few other barbers, and they always look like they're having a good time. They own their own business. Like they show up when they want to, they leave when they want to. They seem like they made decent money, and then the work-life balance was there, which that's, the more important part to me these days. It used to not be, but these days it is. And so I started like looking into the school. I started looking into like the average salaries and stuff like that. And I was really liking what I seen. The only thing that kept me from making that jump was, having a place to work. And I went into Buzz Cuts one day, and I was making a joke really to Jason that works over there. And I was like, he has 2 chairs in there, but he was the only one working. I'm like, you ever going to fill that other chair? And he's like, go to barber school and you can have it. And that's really what did that. But a lot of those doors opened so easily. I just felt like God was putting me at the right place at the right time, because it was one of those things that almost didn't happen on purpose. Every step that happened, like my friend put the idea in my head, and then a joke, made me take the initial jump. And I felt like I didn't really do any of it. I just kind of fell into it.
Did you have any sort of a background in that? Like any interest in that, or? None
at all. I mean, other than seeing other people doing it. And then that's kind of a creative field. You're working with your hands. You're like, every person's head is different. It's almost artistic in a way. And I've always been drawn to that kind of stuff. So I always liked the thought of it, but I had never actually done it before or truly considered it. And it all kind of happened fast, to be honest.
How far in are you right now?
I just finished my 3rd week.
So you're still pretty beginning.
Well,
I don't know how long that step is.
You know me. I don't.
6 months-ish or something like that? The school?
The whole school in its entirety is 7 months. So I'll probably be hitting the shop around November. But you know my personality type. Like when I decide I want to do something, I don't just go into it empty-handed. Like I went and researched all the right tools. I bought them. I watched probably like 30 or 40 hours of tutorials and stuff like that. I've been cutting my kids' hair for 3-4 months now. I got some friends and family members that I've been doing that too. So by the time I hit school, I had a pretty good idea already of what I was doing. And that's, the schooling has only enhanced that. So I'm already very confident in my abilities in that area. And I still got, 6 months to go.
If you ever need a, full head of hair to work on.
Get you a good straight razor, shave in, line the beard up.
I think you do have to practice that though, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, if you ever need that, a bald guy.
We'll make that happen. We'll make you even bolder.
All right, let's go. Let's transition back a little bit. How did you get into hunting originally? Like, was it a passion as a kid? Was it something you just kind of, like in our area, we're in central Missouri, everyone is a hunter, except for me, it seems like. Like, has that always just been a thing? Like you enjoyed? Like what was the moment you were like, I actually really enjoy hunting?
I actually didn't kill my first animal until my junior year of high school. So I got it compared to most people who enjoy that kind of thing. I got into it a little bit later. My dad was never really much of a hunter, but I did have 2 uncles that were. One of my uncles, he passed away from pancreatic cancer, and he actually left me all of his outdoor stuff, fishing rods, fly tying kits, hunting knives. He left my brother a .22 rifle, and he actually left us 2 guitars, an acoustic and a electric guitar that we have to this day. And I've always thought that was the catalyst for a lot of the things that I enjoy in life, because we sat there for hours and we would play that electric guitar and that acoustic guitar, and I feel like that's where our background in music got started. And then when he left me all those fishing poles, fly rods, fly tying kits and stuff like that, that took me down a whole rabbit trail of pursuing things in the outdoors. And so I really feel like the catalyst for the 2 things that I've put a lot of passion into in life came from that moment where my uncle, left me all that stuff. And so I'd probably say that's where that originated from.
Making the YouTube channel from that, like, what was your sort of intention behind that? I know you said earlier, kind of touched on it a little bit about like the wanting to revisit the memories sort of thing. Yeah. How has that sort of evolved over time? Because you've been doing it 3-ish years, 2 to 3-ish years now, right?
Something like that.
So how has your initial idea transformed over those couple of years?
Well, I mean, I think when you jump into something like that initially, you always get a little bit overzealous. Like, hey, I might be able to make a living doing that. And maybe someday that'll happen. But reality smacks you when you start getting really far into it. And you're like, hey, maybe I can make a little money off this, but you're not going to be able to quit your job,
When you upload a video that you spent a week on and it gets like 3 views and 2 of them are your wife and your mom or something,
It's my mom and my dad comment on every video, which is awesome.
That's good,
I mean, there's no embarrassment about that at all. They're really big supporters of that, and it's awesome. I would say that I don't take it as serious anymore. I used to get super stressed out about putting out 1 video a week. Mm-hmm. I would edit even when I didn't feel like editing. I would go out and do an outdoor activity just to put a video out, even if I didn't really want to. And I've calmed that stuff way down because people can tell if you're into it. The quality suffers if you're not into it. So I've went from making it something that I thought I had to do to something, because initially I started doing it because I enjoyed it, and then it started to turn like super business oriented. Yep. And now it's back to a point where I'm really enjoying it again. And I don't put out as many videos, but the videos I put out are way better. Partly because I've just been doing it a long time, and I've gotten better at the edits and stuff like that. Yeah. Thanks to like you and YouTube and a bunch of other stuff, But also just like I'm at a point in life where my free time is a lot more valuable than it used to be because there's not as much of it. So I just make that stuff count when I go out and do it. Yeah. How often are you trying to post? I know you said that like you're kind of going, but a general idea, like you have like one a week, one every other week. Like, do you have a general sort of a thing you like to try to keep up? I used to like to put out 1 video a week, but that is insanely hard. To do that much stuff, to get away one time and go hunting or fishing or dedicate something, that's tough these days, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're probably looking at 10 hours of editing, you know, on an average project. Maybe not quite that much. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe 7 on average or something like that. And then you got to make the thumbnail, and then you got to upload it. I got slow internet. That takes a while, and sometimes several tries, you know. If I can post 2 videos a month right now, but they're really good, that's kind of what I'm after. And then I'm kind of getting into some of the shorts too. Those are a lot easier to throw together, and then they seem to be getting a lot more traction these days than the regular videos do. You know, those little shorts are pulling in more followers on Facebook and on YouTube, and they just do so much better, so much faster. So I think they're trendy. I don't think they'll stay around forever. Yeah. But I'm going to use them while they're here. Yeah. Something else too, you mentioned earlier, the catch, clean, cook stuff. That's something different that I do now. And that was just due to some self-reflection. One, I really do enjoy cooking wild game almost as much as I like hunting it. Like, I would love, and I know you probably would never do this, but I like to bring people over that have never tried deer meat and have them try it. Yeah. And for them to be like, hey, that's really good, or hey, this tastes kind of like beef. Like, I like to cook things and get better at cooking things in a way that, you know, someone who hasn't tried it or maybe had a bad experience with it can come over and be
I'm just a weirdo when it comes to that stuff. Like,
I know, that's why I said that.
If I have my specific thing, I just always get it. Yeah. Go to a restaurant, I get the same thing everywhere. Easiest order ever. Plain double cheeseburger.
You can't go wrong with that.
I mean, I'm just a weirdo. If I liked any of that stuff, who knows, I might try. I've been trying a lot more things these days too. That's one, like the
we'll have to make that a video.
Midlife crisis thing we were talking about before we started. We're having a midlife crisis. Everyone in our age group. 2 of them right here. So, yeah, that's one of the things. I've been trying a whole bunch of different stuff.
We'll have to make a video about that.
I don't know.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it might be funny. I don't know how cool.
Hey, those reactions, I try to make them honest. Like, if I cook something and I don't like it, I'll say so. Yeah. And I have cooked some bad stuff before. But like a lot of times it's good too, you know. So
the ones where you take a bite and you're just like,
If you see me take a bite and then it cuts to a different part, like you can tell the lighting's different or some time has passed. That's because I sat there it's because I sat there and ate it all. Also, and we'll move on after this, but the catch, clean, cook stuff. Another reason that came about is because I started looking at my channel and the type of videos I was posting. And everyone and their brother posts deer hunting videos and turkey hunting videos. And so I tried to niche down just a little bit more and put out some content that not everyone else is putting out. And there's still some other people that do that. There's people that are doing that and having way more success than I am. But there's not as many. And it's easier for my videos to get through the millions of other videos that are out there because they're so niche down. Yeah. And that's when I actually started making a little bit of money off of YouTube and gaining a little bit of traction in terms of followers and stuff like that.
So where are you at right now in terms of like subscribers and average views and stuff like that?
Yeah, just under in average views. That's hard to answer because I'll put out a video that may get 100 views and then I'll put out another one that may do 50,000. Like, it just... And you don't know the rhyme or reason too. Like we were talking about this before the podcast started. That's the hardest
part of YouTube.
Yeah, I'm like, you'll put like 20 hours into an edit, try to make it as good as you can, and then 100 people will watch it. And then you'll just throw something together just to put a video out, and then bam, 50,000 views. And you're like...
It's like so frustrating sometimes. I wish there was like some way for it to get to the effort is the same as the reward thing. Yeah. Because I would crush it.
It's like the videos I want to do good don't. And then the videos I don't care about do really good. Yeah. So now I just don't care about any of them.
That kind of like transitions through all flavors of YouTube. From like I watched a lot of camera people and like bodybuilding type people that I've always watched, and like I watch your stuff, and like once you got heavier into it, I kind of did like a little deep dive. Most of my friends and stuff don't know this about me, but I'm like a CIA agent when it comes to like deep diving on things. So if like you popped up and you were like, hey, can you help me video edit? I want to make these sorts of style videos. So for like a week straight, I was watching every single like other person that would be doing the same sort of content. That way I have some sort of a frame of reference. If you were to ask me something about it, like not only from my outsider perspective, but from some of those people. It's just a weird thing with my head that I do. Like if,
you're
if
very analytical.
Someone that I like is into something, I get into that for a short amount of time just so I have some form of reference in my head. If they were to talk to me about it or ask me a question about it, I can give an informed opinion. I like to know what I'm talking about if I'm talking.
Yeah.
So I try to not like talk out of my ass, Which
is the exact opposite of me. I shoot from the hip on almost everything. Oh, yeah. So as far as average views, it really hard to say.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, this is just my guess. Nowhere on YouTube tells me like average views. I would say maybe 1,000 a video.
You have a monthly average on there?
Yeah. I would say it's, well, for the monthly average though, has all the videos in there, I think.
Yeah. But for the channel as a whole, like your monthly
probably
average?
Probably 100,000 views for the channel as a whole.
Yeah.
The thing about, so some videos do well right off the start, but most of my videos I've found that, like say it's deer season and I put out a deer hunting video, most of the searches for deer hunting content are happening right before the season starts.
Yep.
So when I put something out in season, a lot of people are either already hunting or they've already scratched that itch, so to speak, and they'll do okay. But it really doesn't take off until the following year, right before that season. So I'll put out a video and it won't do really good right then, but then you roll around and check the views on it the next year and it's done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
That happens a ton.
It's called evergreen content.
Yeah. A lot of content creators too will hold, like this turkey season. I just posted I edited all 3 of my videos that I got and I posted them. A lot of people would have put one out because it was earlier in the season and then held those 2 back until the next season and then put them out then. And they probably would have did a lot better than what I did. Yeah. I'm an airhead though. Who knows if I'm going to like lose the hard drive that those are on or accidentally wipe the file. So I don't take chances with that stuff.
I find it really, really hard to hold on to anything. But I'm like, I get super excited about it. I'm like, I want to show everybody. And then I put it out and it gets like 12 views, but sometimes you hit those home runs and they, it goes all the way out of the whole park.
Something I do too is like, I have to put it out right then and there because I might watch that next year and be like, that was a terrible edit.
Yeah.
Or I don't like the way my face looks in this one.
Yeah.
And I may decide that my skills are so much better now that I don't want to put that out. And that's something if you ever like want to put out, if anyone who's listening wants to put out videos, they're going to be trash at first. You still have to put them out there. You just got to put them out there. They'll get better as you go. But everyone's like so concerned with having like a super good edit or super good quality. Well, no one's as good at first.
Yeah.
Like
that's sort of that thing we were talking about where it's like, just do the thing.
Yeah.
Like just put yourself out there. You're just putting yourself out there in video form rather than walking up to someone and asking them a question or, talking to them, building a relationship like that. You're putting yourself out there potentially for the whole entire world, which is daunting for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what you don't realize is there's not going to be anybody who watches it. So if you start and your videos are crap, by the time that people start watching them, hopefully you've made enough progress to where they're not crap anymore. But you got to take the crappy things, as baby steps. Like we were talking about earlier, that whenever I first started with Drew, it was decent, but like I look back on that now and I was like, I would not have put that video out if it was now at all.
Yeah.
Everything that I can see that's wrong with it.
Everything up until about 2 weeks ago. I'm the same way with I just wouldn't. I will say this too. A lot of people cut out the bad stuff. You got to leave the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a good example of this. One of my best videos is a video where I'm patterning a shotgun, right? And it's terribly done. I'm standing right beside a truck, no bench. I didn't really put any forethought into the flow of the video or how it was going to work.
Yeah.
And I'm shooting these turkey loads at cardboard, trying to test the shot density at different ranges. Well, it gets out to 60 yards, and I realize that offhanding it is not steady enough for me to, with just a shotgun to get on there. So I squat down and I put my elbow on my knee, and I'm shooting a 3.5 inch tungsten turkey load, which if you don't know,
I have no clue what that is.
It's a big bullet and it kicks the crap out of your shoulder. Well, I was on the balls of my feet already, and when I shot, it literally like knocked me off balance and I fell backwards on my butt. And normally, under normal circumstances, I would have cut that out, but my buddy who was there for it, like, he died laughing. He's like, you have to put that in the video. So I did. And I got roasted in the comments on that pretty hard, but the views on that last time I checked were like insanely high. And I know it's because someone's like, check this video out. This guy got knocked on his butt, you know? And so sometimes the bad stuff is what makes that stuff go. And you got to have some thick skin because not everyone's nice. And a lot of times the stuff that people want to watch is they want to watch you fail. Like a lot of times that'll spur the views up, you know? So
plus any comment, even if they're roasting you, that's engagement.
Yeah.
A like or a dislike is still engagement on the video. YouTube doesn't discriminate. If you get a whole bunch of down, they don't even show up anymore. But if you get thumbs down, it's all engagement. It all just sees it as engagement, so it boosts no matter what. That's why whenever I ever got any of the like troll comments or anything like that, I'm like, just thanks for helping the engagement. Because you commented that some other person saw it and enjoyed the video. So
and if you comment that back on it, it's also helping that stuff too. So yeah, that's something I've learned. Like, something I've had to learn the hard way is you got to leave the bad stuff in there too. You miss an animal, and you get super pissed off about it. You put it in there. You fall on your butt when you're shooting a shotgun.
There's a short for you.
That same shotgun, I ended up getting rid of it because it was a Mossberg 835 and it was a pump, so it had like you felt all the recoil and it would bruise my face like every time I shot it. And it's just like I'm tired of this thing.
Yeah, I've always liked to shoot guns, but like never been into hunting. I think it's the super early and the super cold. Those are two things that don't mix with me very well.
You sound like you need to hunt some turkeys then. Get up mid-morning.
Plus, like I don't like the meat. Like
you don't.
It just seems like I've tried. I'm just a weirdo when it comes to taste and texture of things. Like even like the regular beef from the store, like the 90-10.
You like jerky?
Not really.
You don't like jerky?
Not really. I'm telling you, I'm a weirdo.
The public knows that now. Totally derailed what I was about to say.
What?
Well, if everyone likes jerky, I was going to say, if you like jerky, I can make something you'll like.
I mean, I have never had like what you would make though. And that's what I was saying. Maybe we could try that or something, you know, like first time tasting something. Or
what kind of meats do you like?
Chicken, 80-20, ground beef sort of stuff. Super plain, barbecue sauce. That's about it.
I already know what I would make you. I'm going to stay away from deer because deer can sometimes, even if you prepare it well, you know, it doesn't taste like beef. It'll never be beef. It's deer. Turkey is pretty dang close to chicken. I take the legs on the turkey and I'll grind them up and I'll actually make turkey burgers out of it. That's what I would make you for your first time, or for your first time trying wild turkey.
Yeah.
It checks two of the boxes. It's not beef, you know, it's not a darker color meat that you're probably not going to like. It's pretty close in taste and texture to chicken, and then it's ground. And those are two things you said you like. So we're going to do that.
One of these days, we'll have to do that.
One of these days soon.
I'll come over, film a video for you.
Yeah.
You'll have one random video that is like, just
top-notch quality.
Here's a mini movie.
That'll be like a 12-view video, like we were talking about. Like we'll put a lot of effort in.
We'll both be like, yes, and then no. So, in terms of hunting and taxidermy, especially the taxidermy thing, what would be some common misconceptions that people have that you could debunk? Like when people think about taxidermy, in my head, I think about like walking into like that old sort of feeling building with a random coyote that's been, you know, taxidermied.
Yeah.
Things like that.
A musty smell.
Like what are some things like that you could?
Well, I'm kind of different because I don't do the full blown taxidermy. I don't do the shoulder, like I don't stuff animals. I do Euro mounts. So I deal specifically with the skulls.
And your business is called what?
Precision Skullworks.
Make sure we insert that
because
in there.
I'm working with skulls with extreme precision.
There you go.
Yeah.
How many minutes did you spend thinking of that name?
I don't think I thought of it. I think my buddy did.
Hopefully you never blow up and then he sues you for half of your things for giving you the name.
No, like it was like I was saying earlier, like a lot of the good things in my life have came to me through other people. And that's where it's important to like just be a good dude and put good energy out there, you know, and surround yourself with good people.
So that hopefully your friend doesn't sue you for the name that they gave you.
No, so hopefully your friend gives you a good name.
That's true.
I got sidetracked there. Where were we?
The
Misconceptions.
Like if someone has in their head that sort of a taxidermy thing, like you work in a taxidermy office, has the weird smell. You walk in, there's the coyote in the corner that's like staring at you. You know, like
a lot of people view what I do as maybe nasty or unsanitary, and nothing could be farther from the truth. Like, I guess that depends on the individual person who's doing it, but I make like after every animal that I deal with, and one, there isn't a lot of waste that comes off of a head. You know, when you're cleaning a skull, there isn't that much waste to deal with, and as long as you just like you don't let anything build up and you clean really good after you're done with everything, there's no smell, there's no mess, there's no nothing. You know, I've got a pretty good process down for that too. That's one of my claims to fame, and what I feel like a lot of people use me for is that I'm fast. Like if you bring me a deer, I can usually have the skull back to you on a plaque, cleaned, white, and no smell, no nothing in 2 days. Sometimes
I don't know anything about that, but it seems really quick.
It is. There's two different methods of doing a European mount. One is beetles, where you basically remove the hide from the animal and you set it into a tank with live insects in it, and they eat all the flesh off of it, and then you whiten it, which takes a while.
That sounds disgusting.
I've never had them to mess with them, but they eat on it pretty fast. You know, a colony of beetles will get all the flesh off of a deer head within like 3 days or something like that, and they're eating it. You know, so it's not sitting there.
That would be gross to me.
That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is you boil it, and you know as everything gets loose, you can power wash it off, which is what I do, or some people even brush it off by hand or whatever, but that's the method that I use, and it's a lot faster. And that's the thing, like with where I'm at, I don't have a shop. I basically work out of my house. I've got a small shop area, but I don't have the means to, because I'll take in a lot of animals. I'll do 60, 70 deer a year sometimes, and I can't have 10 of them sitting waiting to go into a beetle tank. You know, they would sit there and get nasty 3 days, and then you put another one in 3 days. Like I'd never get through them before they started to get like nasty. So I'll do 10 in a night, you know, on my busy nights sometimes. But that's kind of why I chose the method that I did, is because I got to work through them, you know, fast.
Is that the main attraction for that method? Is the effectiveness? Time effective?
Each method has its pros and cons. Like the beetles are a little bit easier on the more delicate parts of the skull, but in my opinion, the beetles eat all the flesh and leave all the grease. When I boil with a degreaser, so not only am I getting the flesh off of the skull, but I'm also taking the grease out of it too. And so, in my opinion, I feel like it's a cleaner end product. Mm-hmm. Some people disagree with me. In fact, most commercial taxidermists will, but most commercial taxidermists, in my opinion, mostly deal with 3D shoulder mounts. I only deal with skulls, and I mean, that's it. I don't do anything else.
Hence, precision. Skull works.
And I've gotten to handle some animals that have came out of a beetle tank, and I just don't think they come out as clean. Now, maybe they're a little bit more detailed, but I think to the naked eye, it would be super hard to tell.
What exactly is a European mount for anyone listening that doesn't know what it is?
So if you picture the coyote you were talking about earlier, it's
a full body.
They take a form and they basically stretch the hide over it, and they build, you know, certain features of the eyes and the nose and stuff like that with clay to make it look super realistic, but it's going to look like a live animal, or at least part of a live animal, and it's got the fur and everything on it. A European mount is just the skull. You clean the skull, you whiten the skull. That's a European mount.
So, like in the movies, when they go to Mexico and on the fence posts, they've got the bull heads and that would be a European mount.
That is your end product right there.
Yeah. Like just from total outsider perspective, it looks like you do a very good job, and it like seeing other people talk about what you've done, like friends that I have that I didn't know were acquainted to you. I've seen them post about your work. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I get to be pretty creative with that too, which is one of the neater parts of that. Like, I make all the wooden plaques and stuff that I do for that too. Good example of that is I had a guy kill a black buck antelope. It's an animal that's originally from Africa, but they have some over here. He killed it in Texas, and he brought it to me, and he wanted the hide incorporated into the mount, which I don't do the hide, so I found a guy to do the hide, and then I rolled it up like a sleeping bag and used rawhide strings and cut out a custom plaque that displayed both the hide and the skull. And it's you can't miss it. It's on my page. It's the only thing that looks anything like what I'm talking about. But it turned out like super cool, and like I've had people kill elk in Colorado, and I'll cut out the silhouette of Colorado and incorporate that into their mount. And so I can almost like sort to tell a story. Like if they keep their shell casing from when they shot the animal, I can include that into there too. Yeah. And I've done some pretty cool stuff in that area.
So it's cool for you and cool for the customer.
Oh,
it's a one of one.
It. Yeah.
And it's their actual animal.
And it's cool that people will come to me. Like he came to me and he said, I don't know exactly what I want. I want you to make it look super sweet, was basically like what he told me. And that same guy does that almost every time he brings me an animal. He's like, hey, make this look cool. And so a lot of people trust me enough, and I'm very blessed in that area, that they'll come up to me and they'll say, hey, do what you think would make this look cool. And I get to be creative there as well. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things about that.
Over your whole life so far professionally, what would you say is like the most creative thing, the most creative outlet that you've had that gave you like the most, that serotonin hit? Like the thing that you look back on and you're like, that was really cool. That experience was really cool. Was it the music stuff? Was it a specific hunt you went on? Like what's a standout thing in your like professional life?
Being able to play music with my brothers is right up there. It's probably like a two-way tie between like one of my hunts, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then being able to like go play music in front of people. And I wouldn't say any instance specifically, but when you go and play something that you created in front of a lot of people and you can tell they're digging it and they're having a good time. And like there's times we would play the Outland Ballroom and it would be packed and everyone would be jumping up and down at the same time, and you would feel like the building was going to fall down.
And it might have.
Yeah.
Knowing that building.
Yeah. It's one of those feelings that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And there's not a lot of things that top that. Yeah. So in the musical world, it would just be like playing something that you made live and seeing someone else enjoy it as much as you did making it.
Mm-hmm. And that's with your brothers.
And with my brothers. Yeah. I think that added another layer of specialness to that situation. Yeah. And as far as hunting goes, I did my first out-of-state hunt a couple of years ago. I went to the Black Hills of South Dakota. I had a guy lined up to go with me. He ended up not being able to go. And so I literally went by myself to the Black Hills of South Dakota, camped out in my truck for 3 days in the mountains. And while I was there, I ran into elk. I ran into a fresh mountain lion kill. I seen mountain lion tracks. I hiked all over the place. I probably put in 20 miles on foot. And at the end of day 3 on public land, I was able to like climb to the very tip top of this mountain, and I shot a turkey at the very top of that mountain. And I had never set foot in that place. I was there by myself. I was sleeping in my truck. I was competing against everyone else that was hunting too. And I was able to find success, and that it was a really cool experience. And then after I was able to harvest that turkey, I brought it back down to my truck. And I was cocky enough at the start of the trip that I brought all the stuff I needed to cook it. So I sat there like in the middle of the morning and just fried some turkey nuggets right there and ate them at the base of the mountain. And it was like a super cool experience.
I remember watching the video on that.
Yeah. And it like some of the footage isn't the best because after like 20 miles through, super hilly and demanding terrain, like you don't feel like turning your camera on sometimes or bringing it with you when you got out of the truck on that specific time. Like that stuff kind of wears on you, carrying all that equipment around. And sometimes you just get like, after the 3rd day of not hearing or seeing any birds and then running into a million ATVs, I was getting pretty upset and like negative about stuff. And sometimes I didn't feel like turning the camera on, but I captured enough that I can go back and watch that still and relive a lot of those memories, and it gets me pumped every time I think about it.
Do you think that the disappointment over those first like 2.5 days is why that high feels so high?
Oh yeah. See, because the thing is, like, if I would have went there and killed one on the first day, I ran into an entire herd of elk. So I come down this hill and I get to this big valley, right? 2-3 miles back into the wilderness. And there's this hillside that has like 1 million trees that have fallen over, a landslide, they've logged them, something. And just out of nowhere, 20 elk appear on this house, on this hillside. They're only 200-300 yards away from me, so I can see them really well. They don't get hunted there, so they're not afraid of people. So I just got to sit there and watch them as the sun was going down. And it was like, if I roll in there and kill my turkey on day one, I wouldn't have walked around and seen that. I wouldn't have gotten to see half the stuff that I did. I wouldn't have got to see the mountain lion tracks or the fresh, mountain lion kill. And then I just seen like so many different cool sights. Like one of the things I do when I'm up there is I'll blow on a coyote howler to try and locate turkeys. It's like a shock thing. Like if someone scares you and you go, ah, a lot of times that's how you can get a turkey to sound off. You scare them and they'll gobble at you.
Yeah.
And then they're in the area. Well, every time I would hit that coyote howler, 10 to 15 deer would get up and just like that is the most deer I've ever seen in one area. The deer density there is just insane. And those are all experiences that I miss if I go there and I don't have any struggle. So obviously, like if I go on another hunt like that again, I want to have success the first day, but I do think that end product and the emotions and the feelings that you get, the whole experience is richer if you have to struggle a little bit. I never want to struggle, but I call it type 2 fun. It's not something that's cool when it's happening, but afterwards you're like, man, that made for like a pretty epic adventure.
Yeah. Nothing would have stood out about that trip if you would have just went there and had an easy time and then came back.
Maybe the drive.
Yeah.
Drove 15 hours.
But now the fact that you had to work and you had to climb up and down a mountain and see things you wouldn't have otherwise seen, now that stands out as your favorite moment, whereas those first 2 days probably wasn't feeling the best,
Right.
That's pretty cool,
Talk
too.
about networking and just being someone who can talk to people. The only reason I ended up in the area that I was in is I was driving down a road, because that's what I would do. Is there's a series of roads that were going through these. They call them the Black Hills, but I'm telling you, I've climbed mountains in Colorado, and these are little mountains.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to take your truck up and down some of them, but I'm driving through these hills, and there's some guys just sitting off to the side camping. I make eye contact with this guy, and I'm like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" And I'm slowly cruising by, like I'm not stopped, but the road is pretty rough, so I'm not going by. I'm going by slow enough that I can talk to him.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" He's like, "Oh, not bad. Just out here camping with the family." And jokingly, I'm like, "You guys haven't heard any turkeys, have you?" And he's like, "Actually, there's 3 or 4 of them that sound off every night up here." And of course, I slam on my brakes, and I'm like, "Are you joking, or is there actually turkeys up here?" He's like, "No, seriously, they're firing off every night up here." And I'm like, "Are you guys hunting them?" And he's like, "No, we're here just running around with the ATV." Would have never known that if I wasn't like friendly and talked to somebody,
Got to put yourself in front of people.
Yeah, which is again another experience. I mean, that's another layer to that story that's kind of cool that I wouldn't have had if I'd have just like had success immediately.
Yeah. What is something you want to do that you haven't been able to do yet?
I really ever since I was super tiny, I wanted to go on an elk hunt. That's something that's a lot of time. That's a lot of money. Do you use an outfitter? Or because like someone like me who didn't grow up in Colorado, like you don't know where they're at. You don't know what terrain they like to live in. And if you kill one, how do you get it out? They weigh 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's typically something you would do in a group activity. But I typically not typically, on every single one of these trips I've been by myself. And so that adds another layer of difficulty to it. Do you go to an outfitter, which is basically, a guided service, and they are there to help you. If they know where they're at, they take you to them. Or do you, shoot from the hip and try to wing it? And if you're doing that, I'm still trying to work out all the logistics on how I want to do that, because that's something I'll probably only do once or twice. And I want it to be special when I do it. I've always envisioned riding in several miles on horseback and having that experience. But again, that's going to be with other people, so I'm just trying to work through exactly how I want that to look, where I want it to be at, that kind of thing. But that's something I'll probably do sooner than later, because that country is nastily hard to get through. And the longer I wait, the harder it's going to be,
Yeah. So just a elk hunt in general.
Not an elk hunt. I mean, I want to harvest one. I don't think.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
With the end goal of getting one.
Yeah. My dad, I admire this about my dad. We went to Wyoming a couple of years ago and we were hunting antelope on public land. And we got our tails kicked in. And he was having the time of his life. You know, we're at the base of this mountain, very pretty country. All we're doing all day is driving through this country and glassing for antelope. And he is having the time of his life. He's happy to be there. I'm miserable. I came there to win. I came there to harvest an animal, and we're not seeing any. And my dad has this unique talent to enjoy whatever situation he's in. He can take some enjoyment out of it. I struggle with that. Like, I went there for a reason, and that reason isn't happening. So I'm having a bad time, even though I'm not working. I'm driving through some beautiful country. I'm seeing sights that I've never seen. I should be taking that all in and just being happy that I'm able to do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I hope that I've gotten better at that. I sure try. But
you admire that about your dad?
I admire that about my dad, and I would like to think that I could go on, you know, an elk hunt or something like that, and have a rich experience, even if I didn't get one. But I think I'd be pretty sour. So I ultimately got to get the job done that I went there for. That's good. That's got to be part of that experience for me to fully appreciate it, I feel like.
Have you ever thought about doing a guide service here?
No. Thought about something like that, yes, only for a second, because I like to hunt. I don't like, and this is, I'll get into this in a second too. Like, I like to hunt. I don't. Now, if it's a friend or a family member, like if you've never killed a deer, or you're having trouble, I love going out and helping people get better. But at the same time, like if I take my brother out 3 times and we kill an animal 3 times, that 4th time, like, you really need to, you know, I'm going to kick you out of the nest, because I don't go hunting to not hunt. You know what I mean? And I feel like with a guide service, that's all you do is you put other people on those animals, and that really wouldn't do it for me, I don't think.
Yeah. So just knowing your own limitation.
Yeah. So that's another thing I've noticed, is that when you have a camera, you get a lot of invites to go hunting. And something I've had to do is I always have to ask, what exactly do you mean? Because 9 times out of 10, they're like, do you want to come film me hunting? And that is a hard no. Not that I would never do that. In fact, I've got, you know, one of my turkey hunts, I went out during youth season and filmed one of my buddy's kids harvest a bird, but he didn't ask me to do that. I reached out and I was like, hey, I would really like to go capture this moment for you. Yeah. I feel like when it becomes an expectation, it's not as, you know, it's not sincere. And
I've had the same sort of, you know.
Yeah, well, you too, like when you were first starting out, I know people probably hit you up a lot, like for exposure, you know, hey, do you want to come shoot this for no money?
It still happens now.
Yeah, and you're like, not really. Yeah. It's not what I do.
Like, are you famous? Like, exposure doesn't pay. Like, I support my family with this. Like,
well, and even if you are, like, say you're in a position of power or money or whatever, like, you've got it to give. Why would you expect something for nothing, you know?
Well, it happens way more often than you would think.
No, I agree with you.
The audacity of some people to expect me to do something for free. Like, if like you said, if I want to put it out there, that's one thing. If you expect it of me, I'm like I like to be friends with everybody, and I like to get along with everybody. But there's some things like that where I'm like how are you raised? Like, to think that you, like, I don't even know who you are.
You probably, like me, have had enough of those experiences now that you kind of vet people through that process. You're like, hey, I kind of know where you're going with this, and you just kind of head it off before it gets to like an awkward point.
Yeah. Like, I would like to come and film a video for you. Just to film a video for you. I've never been into that market. I've seen your videos, and I've seen like I did the deep dive I told you about, like other people who do that sort of content, but I've never made it. And I've always been interested in not the hunting part, but the capturing of the hunting part. That presents like a unique challenge for filming and cameras, and even specifically noise and capturing audio, like all those things. That was what piques my interest.
I started off trying to use a DSLR camera, kind of similar to your setup here, but the autofocus is very loud.
Yep.
And I quickly found out you can't do that.
Yeah.
So then I went to the Handycam, and then I liked it, but the video quality wasn't there. So then I got a bigger, more professional Handycam. It just kind of sprang from there. This last turkey I killed, he was in gun range well before I killed him, but I was waiting for him to come an extra 30 yards to get inside the camera frame. So I'm paying attention to the bird. I'm looking at the camera. When the bird looks away, I'm trying to move the camera. when he's looking at me, I'm like, is he in the camera? And it's this weird, it adds so many layers of difficulty to, you know, something that's already difficult. It definitely is challenging, to say the least.
Do you think that filming your hunts is something that everyone who really likes to hunt should try?
No, because there's times it's been almost detrimental. And nowadays, if you ever watch one of my videos and it pans to a GoPro and you see me shoot, but you don't see the animal, I made a business decision right there that I did not want to miss out on harvesting that animal for the sake of camera footage. I'm out there to hunt first, and I'm out there to film it if I can. And that's something that I had to learn through trial and error. But it isn't for everybody. And then video editing is a pretty daunting thing itself too. It can degrade the experience. You mean
you don't just put the footage in and it just edits itself somehow, and just a couple clicks, you know?
I tried to get
super easy.
I tried to get you to do it for free, but he wouldn't do it.
I mean, if you ever hear the phrase, "Can I come pick your brain?" I hate hearing that, because that's the whole, I would like to come pick your brain. I would like to get something.
Well,
what are you giving me? Like,
if you're hearing that too, are they trying to start their own photography business? Is that going to be in direct competition with you? Like,
well, see, like that's another, I try to differentiate myself. Like, I feel like if I'm good at what I do and I'm going to individually be me through my work, no one else is going to be me. Like, I could hand you my exact camera in the exact location with the exact same lights, and you're going to take a different photo than I would take.
For sure.
And then on top of that, editing it and the look that I go for, like, I feel like if you're worried about competition, then you're already losing. Like, there is naturally competition. There's a lot of my friends that are my competitors. I don't view them, they're my friends. They also shoot photo. Some of them shoot video. We don't need to butt heads or like not be friends, but I like putting myself in other situations, like the filming the hunt thing. Mm-hmm. Never been there. I'm not a fan of hunting, but me being in that new situation is like putting myself out there, like we talked about originally.
You got to be careful because you might get addicted.
I don't know. I might get addicted to
the filming side of it. I've ran into a few people that like it. Like, I was talking about meeting people in the outdoor industry. I had the thumbnails that you used to do for me.
Yeah.
I obviously, like, I started making those, you know, and you were super helpful as far as like telling me what program to get and what steps to utilize, like, to get the desired look that I was after. You've always been like super helpful to me. I had a guy just messaged me randomly on Facebook, and he said, "Your thumbnails are freaking amazing." And he's like, "I watched your video because of your thumbnail, and your videos are amazing." And it turns out he actually films for a couple of different hunting shows that are on TV, right? The Pursuit channel, like right now, and talking to this guy because of a thumbnail, you know? So it's kind of cool how much reach that stuff can have, and how much of a difference it can make.
And see, so like, that was a cool sort of transition too. Like, you didn't really know how to make the thumbnail. So I was like, okay, what are you thinking? So I got the idea from you for a while, made your thumbnails for you. And then that's another, like the video editing, where how you kind of got some things and then you took it. And I like that. I like being the person that can give knowledge and then enable other people to be self-sufficient. Whereas a lot of other people in the creative space, they like to hoard knowledge. They feel like if someone else has that same knowledge, it's going to take away. You know, you're not grabbing off of my plate.
Yeah, that guy in that same conversation, that guy's like, "Hey, like, what program are you using for that?" So I'm like, "Hey, no big deal. This and this, you know."
Yeah, and that's because
I feel like he's not going to make my thumbnail.
Yeah,
he can maybe make his own thumbnail cooler, but he's not going to steal mine. That's mine. Yeah, you know.
And if he does. If you copy someone, you're second best. Like, you're never going to be as good as the original at something, in my opinion. A lot of sequel movies try to outdo the first one, and most of them crash and burn for that exact reason. Like, you have success, and then you try to just copy it. It's just a copy of the first thing. Look for the opportunity to give knowledge, like knowledge, the cliche thing of knowledge is power. That is true across any board that you're in life. Like, knowledge of, like we were talking about, our midlife crisis, like being aware of yourself and like that sort of knowledge, or being aware of how what you do affecting other people. Like some people are oblivious to what they do in life. I feel like once you become like have that knowledge, then you can determine where that goes. So like you coming to me, you didn't just expect me to edit your videos for you. You asked me for some knowledge.
Can I pick your brain?
Would then lead you to, do it yourself. And the same thing with the thumbnails. I knew going into that you wanted to end up doing your own thumbnails, but you wanted to get started on the thing like we talked about earlier. So I could help you get started on the thing. And then slowly but surely you gain that knowledge. I like being that guy, and I wish more people were that guy.
And you've definitely been that for me, not just in like the video and the photography editing, but even going back to music, and because we recorded, you came over to my house one time with a full recording setup, and we recorded like 3 demos in my spare bedroom. So there's like been tons of times, even outside of photography and videography, where you've been like super helpful. And I'm definitely thankful to have a friend like you in the circle. I'm going to assume that most people listening to this know of you and know of your business, right? But if you don't, or if you have someone that's like maybe on the fence or researching, like I just want to say to anyone who's listening, you cannot go wrong with Brian. Like one, he is going to put out like the best product ever. Like I've personally seen him stress for hours over the smallest details. Like whatever he does, he's going to do it like super well. But two, and this is important to me, the older I get, the more important it is, he's just a good guy. Like he's someone that you want to do business with and that you want to give your money to. Like you'll feel good if you do business with Brian. He's just like a good human being. And those are fewer and farther in between than you would like to think.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
You were talking to me, talking about me.
I know.
So now I feel uncomfortable.
I'm talking to people that are listening to your podcast.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you being a friend throughout all the years, all the ups and downs, different life changes for you, for me, all the musician days, the crazy whatever, the whole middle section of our lives before our current midlife crisis is, kids, all that stuff. Like you're one of, I consider like my core group of friends. Like I know if I ever needed anything, I could reach out. Even though we might not talk for a year.
Unless you want me to film a hunt, then it may be like...
And every once in a while, I might go, hey, Matt, let me come pick your brain about some stuff, But I just want to thank you as well about, being a good friend and also being another person that I can look at who's chasing what they want to, because what you do fuels me because I see a friend who's going after what they want. Like surrounding yourself with more people who are like-minded in that regard, the creative aspect and the drive, that's super beneficial. So
I don't want to say that I was jealous when you went full time either, but I was madly not jealous in a bad way, but like I wish that I had something like that in my life at that time, because I seen what you were doing and the big jump that you took, and it was inspirational. That is terrifying to someone who's never done that, to lose like a steady income and health insurance and have nothing guaranteed and being the only income in your family. Yep. Like that takes a lot of balls to take a jump that big. And it was like super cool to 1, see you do that, 2, see you kill it. But 3, it's also like inspirational to other people that are probably like thinking about doing that same thing. And, I don't know this to be true, but I'm sure that had like a ripple effect. And I'm sure that had like a little bit of an effect on what I ended up deciding to do too, because you were motivation for me inside of that. But I'm sure in ways you don't know, that ripple effect probably reached other people that you maybe haven't met, or that maybe haven't, I'm sure you forced some people to put themselves in uncomfortable situations because of like what you did.
That's cool. That's cool to hear too. It just kind of puts it in perspective. Like I'm taking a chance that a lot of people aren't going to have the guts to do. And if I'm going to ever bet on something, it would be me. And I've always been that way.
Yep. Same.
Like I am confident in myself. If for better or worse, like I might put myself in some situations where I'm over my head, but I'll figure it out.
Be stronger because you swam out of it. Yeah.
And a lot of people are just, I don't know if it's that wiring thing like we were talking about. They just they're not built for it. They're not wired that way, or if it's the way they were raised. But I've tried to work really hard to be an individual, me. And I've come a long way, especially like in the past few years. Kids, like you mentioned, kids will change.
That'll do it.
Change the mindset a little bit.
100%.
Makes you grow up, really think about what you're doing, how you're acting.
You get good snacks though.
I mean, my fiance is on this kick right now of eliminating anything with added chemicals.
That's everything.
That's damn near everything.
That's everything. Even fruit snacks and stuff.
Unless you go out and kill your own animal and do what you're doing.
Have fun eating celery sticks.
100% of the time. And like I said, I'm a weirdo when it comes to food too. So I'm like living off of mozzarella bites. Those are one of the foods that don't have any added chemicals.
I feel like that has a chemical in it somewhere.
They don't.
Huh.
She has this app. It's called Yuka. And it's a free app. You can scan things in the store, scan the barcode, and it'll tell you all of the nutritional value, if there is any, out of 100. And then any added things, if it's mild, if it's like a dangerous chemical. And you would be surprised at how many foods that people are eating every single day have all these super dangerous chemicals, like hazardous chemicals that are known to cause cancer, are known for all these different things. And people are just eating them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks in between.
I don't even want to know.
It'll open your eyes.
Yeah, but see, if I know, I'm still probably going to eat that stuff. But then I'll know.
That's one thing that recently has come up where, like, I film a podcast for, her name's Jaisha Connor. She has a place here in town called Ginger Wellness. So I film a podcast for her, and she brought up all this stuff and talked about it on a podcast that I was filming of hers. And so that's like one of those ripple effects where just being in the room, hearing that from her, like that's affected our lives. And like we talked about our kids, and like my mom had cancer. Almost everyone knows someone that had cancer and is or will be affected by it. If we can change what we're putting in our body now, and especially our kids, and they can grow up not ingesting all that stuff, there's a much higher chance of them not having cancer. All of the bad things that come with that stuff. Because the benefit is essentially convenience when it comes to stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You trade your health for convenience. And if you look at it long term, I wouldn't trade my kids' health for anything.
Yeah.
So looking at that,
I'll have them eat the mozzarella bites, and I'm going to continue to pound the French fries and whatever else.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you throughout the years, the friendship, the drive, all the stuff, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Brian, I feel the same way.